Hi everyone, thank you for joining me at this Finding Your Purpose free workshop. This is spread out over 4 days. You can, if you're catching this on the replay, you can comment underneath if it's in the Facebook group, or if you're watching on wherever I'm hosting this video, go to the Facebook group if you're not in it already, and you can post your questions or any kind of clarification you need in there. Just a little bit of admin before we start. In case you don't know already, my name's Harris Eddie Hill. I'm a serial entrepreneur, a best-selling author, and I just really love business. So I'm helping people to get to the bottom of their soul-aligned business, because my history is that I spent a long time being very depressed and in jobs that didn't fulfill me, that didn't appreciate me, that didn't pay me very well, and it was miserable. So I'm really hoping that I'm going to help a whole load of people to uncover their soul aligned purpose. And this is a really different process, okay? Because if you end up going to like a careers counselor or somebody who's like looking at your skills, they're basically going to give you a list of job titles that might suit you. That is absolutely not how we do things here. In fact, it's a totally organic process that you go through. So I want you to suspend your critical mind for a while, and sort of your critical analytical mind, and just let this happen. The first, we're not even going to get to the visioning part until day 3. Days 1 and 2, I'm just going to take you through a bit of a discovery process. I'm going to take you through some free profiles and explain the significance of it all. And I just want you to just take on board these ideas and this information and just see what happens. Hi, Stefan, thanks for joining. So yeah, suspend your normal, your analytical, your logical mind, and I'm going to take you through this process of self-discovery, and then we're going to allow this vision to come to you on day 3. So without further ado, here we go. I'm going to share my screen with you first. If I can remember how to, there we go. All right. All right, so the first thing, I'll get you to do this in a minute. So the first thing I'm taking you to, wait, no, that's the second one. This is the first one, is Myhumandesign.com. I'm going to show you how this works. It's pretty simple. You'll notice in your welcome emails, you were told to remember your, or find out at least the time of the day that you were born and the place that you were born. So I'm going to put in a random thing here. I'm not going to hand out all of my personal details over the internet. So we'll put in John, and we'll go for, go for 1971, January the 1st at 1 a.m. 1 minute, and we're going to go for London. Well, that's a bit general, isn't it? It's not going to like that. I can't spell anyway. Yeah. Okay. So this is where you put your birth information in. So just, I understand about like wanting to know how all of these things work. That's very much my sort of thing. But don't worry, like, I don't want you to get really bogged down in all of these details. We're going to take a really big picture look at all this stuff. You don't have to worry about remembering any of it. We're just going to go through this process purely in order to enjoy it and to just take part in a bit of self-exploration. You don't have to remember any of these things or anything. Oh, and by the way, you should also have your worksheet for day 1. I'm just going to get the copy up. I completely forgot about that. So your worksheet for day one, the link was sent in your reminder email for today, the one that you got an hour beforehand. So I won't bother sharing this because you're already looking at it, but it will just give me a prompt so I can remind you what you should be filling in on your worksheet. If you don't have a printer, you're quite welcome to just write it down in a notebook, but just make sure that you've got all your notes in one place. So this human design thing, I only found out about it at the beginning of this year. And when I first came across it, I was like, this looks weird. And then the more work I've done with it, the more amazing it's really been. All right. All right, so here we go. Let's get this chart. This is just an example, but yours will look something like this. Now this looks mental, but don't worry. You don't have to know what all of this stuff means. We're just taking a really big picture look today. We're just going to take a few just a few details from it and just have a little read through. In fact, this way is the second one that's got a little bit more information in it, and that's where I think some of the more exciting parts are. If you just have a look on the right hand side, okay, so type first. This is your aura type, and there's 5 different ones. There's generator, manifesting generator, manifester, projector, and reflector. It's just 5. And this is really, really key in understanding like how you best operate it. You know, this also comes into like manifestation, like being aligned and stuff like that. So I happen to also be a generator. And in the broadest sense, a generator is best responding. You'll see the strategy underneath is more about how, like, it's the best way that you should deal with everything. And for me, responding is a really important part because it's all about responding to your gut, not to other people, but to your gut. If your gut says no, you absolutely don't do it. If it says yes, you keep going. So intuition plays a massive part in generators' strategy and like how they do life. And you'll find a strategy under each design type, and I can take you through a brief part of that, and I can also link you to a podcast that explains this really, really well. But either way, don't worry about it too much. Just have a look at your words and just note them down in your day one worksheet. Just going to check. Do we have any questions so far? I don't know if I've got the chat. I don't think I can see it from where I am because I'm sharing my screen. Bear with.
There's any questions, darling?
Okay, thanks. My PA, thank you, darling. All right, so I'm just going to carry on. So authority, the way you make decisions is emotional. Okay, so this feeds a little bit into the strategy. But basically, I think it's about 75% of us are emotional decision makers. And what that actually means is that we need to actually allow time for the emotions to process in order for us to make decisions about things. So, and this is particularly important for generators, manifesting generators, and I think it's the other one is it's either reflectors or projectors, but it will say on your chart anyway. But the point is that, you know, if you make impulsive things or you dive in head first, and that is a very common negative strategy, and that's one that I used to do a lot. It's not particularly healthy, and also you're more likely to make rash decisions or do something on an emotional whim. Okay, So you need to like let it sit for a while. And also, you know, if something doesn't feel good to you, that's also, you know, even if you've left it a week or 2 weeks or something to make a decision, if it still feels off, then that is also an indication. So anyway, this is the Human Design free profile, and there's not a lot else in here. I mean, this is a real big school of thought. You could spend years learning this stuff. I'm not going to do that to you. So I'm just taking you through the first few initial things. And on your worksheet, you've got your human design type, which is like it's one of the aura types. Your authority type is so for generator is emotional. See what it says on your profile. Strategy. So on this one, strategy was, hang on a minute, I'm having a brain fart. Responding. So just write that down. And sign, self-theme and not self-theme. Bear with me. I think that might be. Oh, it is there. Sign is satisfaction. So satisfaction is really important to a generator. Whatever your word is that comes up, you've really got to think about that. That is when you're most yourself and you're most aligned. It doesn't mean that you have to be satisfied with things that you don't like. It doesn't mean that. It just means that you have to be either, you know, satisfied that you've got more information about things that you want or you don't want, and it's finding satisfaction in the moment, even if it's the satisfaction of knowing that this is not for me and I'm not keen. All right, I'm just going to stop the share for a second. Hey, and welcome everyone. Sorry, I've only just seen that more people have joined. All right, so this is the link. I don't know if you want to have a look at your so if you want to have a look now and put your information in, obviously we're not going to see it. So, and that's also why I used an anonymous, like a random one that I made up. So if you want to have a look and go through that now, then I can give you a few minutes, or if you would prefer, I can just carry on and take you through the second thing. But I would encourage you to get both of these links up. I'll link the second one so that you can do it at the end if you prefer to do it at the end. So the first one is human design and the second one is gene keys. Now I know that this is a bit of a weird thing to take you on, but I promise that there is a big reason why we're doing it this way. Okay. Do you have any questions so far? I can actually see the chat this time. That's very useful. No, all right. I don't know if you're wanting to go through this link now that I've sent you, or if you want me to crack on with the next part. Well, either way, you've got those links there. So just make sure they're already open in a browser of yours so that you can come back to them at the end, and I will keep going. All right, I'm going to share my screen again. Oh, and the last part that I forgot to mention. So we talked about self-theme and satisfaction. That's when you're most aligned and you're most yourself. And not self-theme is frustration. So me as a generator, I know that every time I'm getting frustrated is the moment that I need to just step away and sort my head out and come back feeling satisfied at whatever I'm doing. And that, you know, I don't want to get into like toxic positivity and stuff like that, but it's just important for, you know, sort of making decisions, being creative, you know, doing your business stuff, whatever it is. It's really important just to know those two things. And then you're a little bit more self-aware about what you're doing and whether this is right or not right. On Sunday, I got home after having a really relaxing day. I got home from having dinner at a mate's on the Sunday night at like 10:30 at night. And after I'd had this really relaxing, very satisfying day, excuse me, I decided to fight with my website for a few hours. I just got really frustrated. I was like, you plonker, like, why are you doing this to yourself? You've had a really nice day. All right. So we're now on Gene Keys. Now this one I think is particularly magical. When this was first shown to me, I was like, this is a bit mental. Like, I'm into woo-woo stuff, but this, I hadn't seen anything like this before. And I was like, well, I'll give it a go. I'll be open-minded and I'll give it a go. And it actually ended up, I was like, I really like this. There was stuff in there that I couldn't believe it. I thought this is like really accurate, like strangely accurate. I'm going to put my my work email in. That's on the internet already, so I don't mind sharing that with you. Spell. It's because I'm typing around my microphone, sorry. So I'm just making one up. This is the same one I used before. Oh, and by the way, you're going to see something similar. So this chart on the left-hand side, these are all gene keys. Okay, and that basically means these are all different aspects of like your personality, your spiritual. It's kind of like spiritual DNA, if you want to think about it that way. I think this has been created with a whole blend of different practices, including I Ching. I think some astrology, like, it's really out there. Like, I did not grow up being into any of this stuff, but so far what I've seen from it has been really, really helpful and positive. And I think like that should be the kind of deciding factor as to whether we pay any attention to it or not. So these basically represent different sort of like chakras or like energy centers in the body, and then these are all the numbers that are attached to gene keys. So once we're on the gene keys thing, it's going to show us something that I think is a little bit easier to understand, and I think it's really well presented as well. Very visually satisfying. All right, so this is our profile. Now in our worksheet, you should have had the link to. In fact, if any, does anybody need the worksheet if you don't have it already? Okay, hang on a minute. Let me get to you, Rebecca. Just going to come out. Did you have a question, Rebecca, or were you just agreeing?
PDF for your workbook.
Oh, lovely. Thanks, Jack. If you haven't got your... Oh, okay, lovely. Jack's literally just dropped it in the chat there. So if you just download it. And again, you're very like, if you just want to note these things down on a bit of paper, you don't have to print it out and go through all of that stuff. It's just to give you a guide of things to pay attention to. Thanks, Jack. It's lovely having a PA. I highly recommend it. You can't have Jack though, he's mine. All right. So before I go through this profile, I'm just going to draw your attention to the worksheet. In fact, I can share this with you. I say that confidently. Should put some hold music on. Oh, that's strange, Rebecca. Do you know what? Let me put the Let me put the link to the worksheets page. It'll be updated every day with each new worksheet. Yep, that's right. It's very simple anyway. This is what your worksheet looks like. So just on that initial page that I took you through on the human design, these are just the things that you need to write down: your human design type, authority, strategy, self-theme, and not self-theme. That's all you need to take off of the first page and just ponder on it later. And now we're going to look at gene keys. Now there's quite a bit of information in here, but don't worry, you're only going to be taking notice of the top part. I'll show you now, and then any other ones that you read and you think, yeah, that sounds like me. I'm going to take you on to the... All right. So your very first section here, it's not too much. Don't get scared. There's a lot of really good information on here, but we're just going to take you through the first bit. So the first bit is your genius. Now notice the genius is the green, love is red, and prosperity is blue. These colors come up in the big chart that comes next. Okay. So just make a note of that. It will help you fill out your table and stuff as well. So John, this made-up person, John's genius is: my deepest purpose in life is to manifest the gift of authority. So as we go through these words, it's important to know that these words have a particular meaning within gene keys. It's not like necessarily the dictionary definition. Okay, there's like kind of like a spiritual sense to this. So the gift of authority is all about really mastering something, really becoming like kind of an expert, but also like on a really deep level. Okay, this isn't just about like studying something until you're blue in the face. This is about like really embodying something and becoming an authority on whatever it is, whatever your purpose turns out to be. And to realize my purpose, I need to transform the shadow of control. So in this, it also talks about the shadow side of things. So that's the negative. So you notice that in the profile that we did before, Myhumandesign, we talked about self and not self. That's the same kind of thing. So it's talking about a gift and the shadow of that. So the shadow is the flip side. It's kind of, I don't want to say the negative, because all of these things play an important role, and you know, I don't want to put like a negative spin on shadow, because shadow is like there to show us things, and the parts of ourselves that are still kind of in this less than satisfying or happy state are kind of there for a reason. And there's a lot of like healing and positive things that come from dealing with shadow aspects of ourselves. Okay, so it's not a negative thing, it's nothing to be ashamed about. Like this is, and you know, we all have like shadow aspects of ourselves, and like it's just part of life, it's just part of being human. So I was listening to a really good podcast last night, and Amari, I think it was, this guy's name is Amari, he's a coach, I think he's a dating coach, but he said you can have power or you can have control, but you can't have both. And like the second he said that, like my brain exploded. He kept talking, but I was like just really focused on this thing. And I think it's true, having power in the real spiritual, like positive sense of the word is not about having control. Control is the opposite. Control is the shadow side. So I just thought that might be a really interesting thing to ponder. So the second part, love. In relationships, my greatest challenge is to transform the shadow of oppression. That's an interesting one. I've not read that exact one before. So transforming the shadow of oppression for John, for this profile, is kind of like, you know, what's the opposite of oppression? The opposite of oppression is freedom and choice. Okay. So what that might look like, all of these things might show up as different behaviors. So shadow of oppression might look like, oh, well, I have to be here, like I'm obligated, you know, it will come up as these sorts of behaviors and thoughts as well. It's really, really important. So transforming that shadow of oppression into free will, choice, you know, this is why I'm here, will ultimately bring about like success in this area. Excuse me. And lastly, prosperity. I unlock my prosperity through my gift of teamwork. Well, that goes without saying. So, you know, I know that for me, like I grew up with a lot of, I really had to learn to do things on my own. So by the time I got to being a bit older, I was like, I absolutely do not work well in a team. Like it's not me. I like doing things myself. But in my sort of later 20s, early 30s, I actually got the hang of being part of a group in a healthy way. And it was like magical, and it's really changed my life. So yeah, this is different to my one, by the way. I undermine my prosperity through the shadow of interference. So interference is like the opposite of trust. Interfering is what you do when you don't trust that things are being done properly, and you are undermining people or situations. I thrive my best in a partnership. So this is really important. If you get something like this come up in your own profile, it's really important to take into account these sorts of things, because they will be really important in how you move on and what you end up doing. It doesn't matter where you end up, by the way. My coaching, obviously, a lot of like what I'm doing is business coaching, but you know, this this experience, this mini course that I'm running this week, can be for anybody. If you're just looking to find what you want to do for work, and if that ends up being in a job, then that's absolutely fine. All right, so the next part of the Gene Keys profile. So I'm not going to read through all of these, but just to give you a little taste, it's got your life's work, what I'm here to do. So again, this is not giving you job titles. This is more about your purpose, like almost like a spiritual, a much deeper reason behind either what you do already, or what will feel really good to you, or will grow you in a particular way. And yeah, it's quite inspiring, I think. Your evolution, what I'm here to learn. You've got my radiance, what keeps me healthy. This is a really, really important one as well. It's fascinating that what keeps one person healthy is not good for somebody else. So, you know, again, this is partly why I like these profiles so much, is because it's so nuanced, and I think it really gives people permission, particularly if there's aspects of you in your profile that isn't kind of like socially common or socially encouraged. And here you've got my purpose, what deeply fulfills me. And again, this is about the deep reason behind what you're doing. It's not going to give you a job description, but all of these things, reading all of these things, is going to help you, hopefully, to start to connect to that part of yourself. So we're starting from the root up. From my perspective, a job title is the leaves on the branches. Yeah. You can't have leaves if you don't have roots, and a seed, and that's where we're starting. We're starting at the beginning. We're growing. We're giving this whole thing foundations, so that within the next few days, as this idea germinates, it's going to turn into, you know, we're at least going to get to the branches stage, and you're going to start to have a really strong idea. Okay, but for now, we're just going to ponder all of these things. I encourage you to read a lot of this after today's course session, and just have a look through everything. So the first three things that I shared, that we talked about in the boxes at the top, these are the things that you need to fill in on your the second half of your worksheet from day one. And now I want you to read through this in your own time, and to just pick out anything that seems significant to you. Now, as we go down to the next part, we've got the full profile. Now, you know, on the last page, we had that really complicated diagram. This is exactly the same thing, but it's just done a lot more simply. And you'll notice, do you remember I said that you've got genius, love, and prosperity were in green, red, and blue? All of these centers here are reflected by the color, whether it's genius, love, prosperity. Some of them are a mixture of the two. So these are your main gene keys, and these are numbers that appear on the other one. And you'll notice if we have a look here at honor, your life's work, the gene key number is 38. So honor is about like doing things with integrity, obviously, and doing things in a heartfelt way. And perseverance is the positive side of that. And then in the light gray is struggle. Okay, so this is the opposite. If you want to get into all of the deep sort of like meanings behind all of these things, there is a gene key book. It's nothing to do with me. I'm not affiliated in any way, but it's quite lengthy. This is a massive school of thought. You don't need to know all of these things. So do you remember before it said that oppression on this profile, oppression. So we found it here, this light gray next to vocation. So oppression here is all about this feeling or this sense of not having any free will and feeling obligated. So the opposite of this is transfiguration. So the power to change and this real feeling of like having your own ability, your own power to do things. Yeah. So you'll notice like some of the things we've talked about before will turn up here in your chart. So again, you don't have to go through all of these. Like when I first went through this, I was just looking at my work and my prosperity. So I didn't really pay attention to the red ones so much. I was looking particularly at the green and the blue. And if you're on a desktop, you'll notice on the right hand side, you've got life's work audio. Okay, this is really important because you can't get these audios, you have to pay for them. But when you do this free profile, this one, your life's work audio with your 38th gene key at the top here, this audio is free. I think you can buy them. I think you can buy all of the audios for like your individual gene keys. But I think, you know, they do start to cost money if you want to get all of them or even a few of them. So make the most of your audio on the right hand side here, download it, save it somewhere. All right, so that's about it for this second profile that I've taken you through today. I want you to listen to that audio that I've just pointed out, have a read through everything, and just start to really reflect on a lot of these things and think about times that a lot of these aspects have come up in your life, whether that's the version that we're aiming for or the shadow version, and think about times when things have worked. And I just want you to think about that, not because of the type of job that you were doing, but who you were getting to be in those situations. If you've just left school, like it doesn't have to be job related. You could think about any time that you've helped somebody or you've been in a relationship with like an authority figure. You can think about all this in a lot of different ways. Pardon me. So any of those gene keys that you have a look at, you'll notice at the end of your day one worksheet, you've got gene keys that feel significant to me. You've got the number, the name, the gift, the shadow, and the type, whether it's the genius, love, prosperity, the green, the red, or the blue. Is there any question? Are there any questions so far? You're very welcome to turn your camera on if you want to. Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right. So that's all I wanted to take you through today. I just want you to ponder on these things. Like, I'm hoping that you should really be able to see yourself in these profiles and in these different things. Just suspend your sort of critical analytical mind for now and just go with it. Like, there's nothing that, none of these profiles going to like advise you to like gamble all of your money or anything like that. This should just be a really positive, very gentle way to kind of explore what feels right, what feels aligned, and to think about a lot of these positive aspects. And like I said before, you don't have to be an expert in any of this. Just read what's available to you there and just have a think about it. Write down any thoughts you have. Tomorrow, I'm going to take you through 2 more profiles, and we're going to really get into some other things to think about. And we're, all of this information is sort of like the starting ingredients to help you to begin a picture later. Think about this as cake ingredients. At the end, we're going to end up with a cake, but for the first 2 days, we're just going through ingredients. Okay. If there are any questions, then please post in the Facebook group. I know that not everybody here is part of the Facebook group. The link to it is in your welcome email, and it should be at the bottom of your reminder emails and stuff. So come and join. You can post any questions that you have in there. And other than that, unless there are any other questions, I will catch you all tomorrow, same time. And again, if you can't make it live, then things will, I will send these replays out so you can catch up with them. But obviously you won't have the benefit of me being here in order, able to answer your questions as and when you need them. You're very welcome, Journey.
Thank you, Haris.
Thanks, Stefan. Thanks for coming.